Welcome back to One Stop Law. Now, in this video, we will look into the effect of this aggression by Russia on Ukraine, on Russia itself, like how Russia has got affected by the invasion it has carried on Ukraine. A study conducted by the Center for Economic Recovery claimed that only in the Russia, first 4 days of the war, Russia had to incur expenses up to the amount of $7 billion for starting this war, which is approximately more than 50,000 crore rupees in Indian currency. Now, this was only for the first 4 days. Now, as the war is continuing for more days, we all know it's now in its 23rd day. The same survey had estimated that this cost can eventually cross $20 billion per day for Russia. So it means that each day Russia has to spend more than around $20 billion to fight this war, and this is the direct expense which Russia has to bear, or the Russian government has to bear from its own taxpayers' money. So Russia is itself is facing a lot of destruction and hardship with each day of this ongoing war. Basically, it had never thought that Ukraine will give so much resistance to it. So Russia also is already paying a big price for this aggression. Inflation has hit the country very badly. The Russian currency ruble has crashed in the last few days drastically, and the situation of common people in Russia has become deplorable. Even they are now, protesting against their government and demanding Russia to back out from this war. Most importantly, thousands of Russians who deal with foreign countries are not getting their salaries because of uh, loads of sanctions imposed on Russia by other countries. So basically in this video I will take you through those sanctions and restrictions imposed on Russia to create pressure to back out from this war. But why is all this thing happening to Russia? When a country goes to war, how does it affect the economy of the country and its citizens? Do we realize that? Like, this is a war which is happening outside Russia. Russia has invaded Ukraine, and still Russia is facing so many hardships. So let us analyze all those factors one by one and see that what Russia has invited to itself by waging this war, which is not even going inside its territory; it's completely outside its territory. So we will look into the sanctions imposed on Russia one by one. The sanctions I have classified under different heads, like the sanctions imposed by the governments of various nations, as also the various restrictions imposed by the various multinational companies around the world, the sports restrictions imposed on it, and various other things. So let's get on with the video. Let us first look into the various financial and economic sanctions imposed on Russia by the different governments and nations. Sanctions are basically imposing penalty or punishment on a nation which has violated any international law or for behaving aggressively, which mainly targets the economy of that country so that the nation pulls back its forces of aggression from the nation it has invaded. So one of the major economic sanctions imposed on Russia is the SWIFT ban. I have already made an extensive video on the blockage of Russian banks. So if you want to listen to that, I will give the link of that video in the description. You can check out. So SWIFT block is a very major step taken against Russia because SWIFT handles billions of financial messages each year from the different walls around the world. So, since the Russian banks have now been cut off from the SWIFT system, it means neither they can, accept money from international sources, nor they can send money somewhere outside Russia. So, this sanction significantly hinders movement of money into and out of Russia, and thus it will result in a higher inflation and weaken Russian ruble, which it has done so, and it aims to cripple Russia's ability to finance Russian military and to eventually force it to call back its military forces from Ukraine. In this regard, it can be said that Russia is not the only country on which SWIFT ban has been imposed. Earlier, SWIFT ban have been imposed on in North Korea and Iran as well, and Iran had lost one third of its foreign trade because of this SWIFT ban. So this is a very major step taken by the foreign countries, Western countries, against Russia to block it from the SWIFT system. Another major example of sanctioning Russia financially is freezing the assets of Russian central bank. Now, every country's central bank has some foreign exchange reserves, which is known as forex reserves, which basically means the banks keep some money in foreign currency to make payments to other countries for some reasons or to facilitate any global trade. So, thus, for every country, Russia's central bank maintains reserves in US dollars. America and various other countries, which include UK and European countries, have now freezed all these dollar reserves, stating that they would not accept these US dollars which Russia have. So basically, it means that all these forex reserve is now just a waste, and its amount is also very huge. It is close to more than 630 billion US dollars. So this is also a huge sanction imposed on Russia, financial sanction imposed on Russia by the foreign states. Moreover, USA has placed Russia's top 10 financial institutions, representing about 80% of the country's banking sector, under restrictions from conducting transactions through the US system. The assets of many other Russian banks, uh, including the country's second largest bank, have also been hit with strict asset freeze and new businesses restrictions in the European Union, United Kingdoms, USA, and elsewhere, including New Zealand, Australia, etc. Let us now look into the sanctions imposed on various Russian billionaires and oligarchs by the various governments. The foreign assets of the Russian president, his foreign minister, his defense minister, as also those of the FSB security head, the armed forces chief, and all the members of Kremlin Security Council, have been frozen in the European Union, USA, and UK. The EU has imposed sanctions on all 351 members of Russia's parliament. Same restrictions have been imposed by USA and UK, and also by Russia, Australia, Japan, and New Zealand. Moreover, more than a dozen of billionaire and oligarchs who have ties with Putin regime, their assets have been frozen by various governments around the country, so that they cannot, fund Putin's attack on Ukraine, and instead they can put pressure now on Putin to stop this war because their assets are at stake. Next, let us look into the sanctions on transport imposed on Russia and its citizens. More than 30 countries across the world, including countries like USA, Canada, and many European countries, have closed off their airspace for Russian airplanes, which means that Russian aircraft are not allowed to enter into the airspace of those countries. According to estimates, around more than 150,000 Russian tourists are in other countries at present, who will now face severe difficulty to return to Russia. Moreover, two very major companies, uh, Airbus and Boeing, who build aircrafts, have said that they will stop sending their spare parts to Russia and Russian airlines, and would also suspend all their operations in Russia. So in near future, it's going to be extremely difficult for anyone to fly to Russia or to fly out of Russia. Till now, we were looking into the various sanctions imposed by the governments of various countries on Russia. Let us now quickly look into the various sanctions imposed by several multinational companies. Now, we should keep in mind that the motive of the companies is to earn profit. So, if they are also imposing sanctions, means they also want this war to end at the earliest, and that's why at the cost of their loss of business they're also trying to put pressure on Russia to pull them back from this act of aggression. To start with, the major car companies BMW, Volkswagen, Mercedes, Jaguar, Toyota and Honda all have said that they would stop exporting their cars to Russia and would stop all their car operations productions in Russia. Major clothing companies and shoe brands like H&M and Puma have also suspended all their operations in Russia. IKEA, a major furniture company from Sweden, has closed down all its stores in Russia. Same Airbnb, a very useful company for the travelers, has stopped all its operations in Russia. The oil giants like BP and ExxonMobil has also similar response towards Russia. In fact, BP have said that it would dump 19% stake in Russian state-owned energy, which is huge. Netflix has said that it will now be impossible for Russians to sign up for new accounts. The big tech companies like Apple, Microsoft have said that they would stop to sell their products in Russia. Samsung, which is a South Korean company, have also said that it would not ship its product to Russia anymore. So these are basically all the big multinational companies whose products and services are quite indispensable in our daily lives. And these companies have suddenly stopped access to the Russians. So we can understand the situation of a common Russian there. And thus we see that these foreign companies are pulling out their investments from Russia, and all other foreign companies who were thinking of investing some money in Russia have also dropped the idea because of this war. So you can understand the situation of Russian people and their economy. Moreover, Visa and MasterCard, two of the biggest payment processing networks in the world, whose millions of credit cards are used worldwide, have decided to block the Russian banks. 74% of payment transactions in Russia were processed only through Visa and MasterCard, which won't be possible as of now during this wartime. So, this is very bad for the Russians. Further, international payment transfer companies like Remitly and Wise have also suspended their operations in Russia. The Russian banks, which have been cut off, from the SWIFT system, on whom sanctions have been imposed, now cannot use Apple Pay, Google Pay, or Samsung Pay. So, making normal payment in their day-to-day lives have become very difficult for the common people in Russia. And that is why we saw people running to ATMs to withdraw cash. But the banks too didn't have so much cash because everybody wanted cash at the same time. So banks ran out of cash. This is a situation known as bank run, and we got to see uh, pictures like this across our news channels. And this is what is happening to a common Russian now, because these Russians are now running desperately for cash, and the banks, every source of income, every source of cash is now out of their hand. So can you imagine, like, this is a country they are staying in, it has gone for invasion, the war is happening in some other country, and these people are suffering like anything. Let us look into some of the restrictions on sports imposed on Russia. The two most powerful bodies of football, FIFA and UEFA, have decided to suspend the Russian football team from all international soccer tournaments, which means that the Russian team will not be allowed to participate in this 2022 FIFA World Cup. UEFA Champions League final has also has been removed from St. Petersburg to Paris in France. The Formula One Grand Prix and the World Cup skiing events, which were scheduled to be happening in Russia, have been cancelled. Uh, The Russian team has been banned from taking part in Eurovision Song Contest as well. Moreover, the International Chess Federation has said that the 44th Chess Olympiad, which have teams participating, 200 teams participating around the world, will no longer take place in Russia. In fact, it is now going to take place in Chennai of India. So the sport federations across the world have also taken this act of aggression by Russia very uh, offensively, and have taken very stringent measures against Russia and its sports. Now, all these sanctions are bound to affect the stock market of the country. Russia's stocks and currencies tanked ever since Russia invaded Ukraine, and that is why, for the first few days of the war, Russia kept its stock market closed in fear of a major crash, and that's exactly what happened when it opened. Russian currency ruble reached its record low. In 2012, the value of one US dollar was equivalent to 30 ruble, which in January 2022 reached up to 68 ruble, and the all-time low it reached was when one US dollar became equivalent to 150 Russian ruble on March 12, 2022. Again, the Russian government has decided to keep its stock market closed for another week, and that is how you can make an idea how the Russian stock market and currency and economy has tippled down due to the various restrictions and Russia's own war expenses. So you can well understand what the people of Russia, the citizens of the country, is paying for this war. High inflation has hit the country. In fact, it is already hyperinflation. The hard earned money of the people, of the common people, is losing its value, and Russian government is actually fighting this war at the cost of the taxpayers' money. And the people, the commoners, they are out of cash. They cannot use the basic payment systems. They are unable to get cash from the Russian banks, and they are under terrible impact. They cannot move out of the country freely now because of the travel restrictions. So because of inflation and all these restrictions, they are not getting many items, many articles they use in their daily life. Their money is losing value, so they are now crowding in the supermarkets to buy electronic items like laptops and smartphones, because they know that these are the assets whose value is not decreasing. If they are able to go to other countries and sell them, they will get some money, whereas their hard earned money in the bank is losing its value. So, as we started to discuss the effect of this invasion by Russia on the country itself, on the invading country itself, Russia, and as we discussed the various sanctions imposed on it and their effect on the country's economy and finances and the common people, we learned that the value of the Russian currency is going down day by day, and because of this, there is hyperinflation, as a result of which the standard of living of a common Russian will go down further in coming days. People will be pushed to poverty, unemployment, and further inflation is waiting for them. So those who were thinking that going to war is a act of bravery, or it is only harmful to the country which is invaded, will need to give it a second thought now. uh, Here, war is going on in Ukraine, but the price is being paid by a common citizen of Russia, which this person, which a country leader has invaded. And as of now, we are into the third week of the war, and this person seems to be completely indifferent to the situation and the hardships the Russian people are facing in this situation. So we can just hope and pray that may the good sense prevail, and in the interest of humanity and mankind, this war stops at the earliest, and um, people of Ukraine and Russia get back to normalcy at the soonest. Till I see you in the next video, thank you all.